Hello guys, welcome to the channel. I have had a very busy week, so I didn't have time to compile enough news to make an actually relevant intel drop for you guys, so no intel drop this morning. Instead, we're going to be discussing AB286. Let me really quick make sure I actually got that right. Yes, AB286, and it's a Nevada gun confiscation bill that has now been passed. I learned about this from Reno May this morning. I have not heard a single other person talk about it or any news articles on it at all, which is why I'm actually bringing it to you, because it's not something that's already been covered. Usually when other people make videos with good content and put it all out there, I don't need to, but something like this, nobody else is talking about, so I want to spread the news on it and get you guys up to speed on it. So, regarding this new bill, AB 286 basically in the state of Nevada bans ghost guns entirely. What a ghost gun is, if you don't know, is it is a way that you can manufacture a gun yourself without having a serial number on it and without the government knowing it exists. You buy the the receiver, which is the part that houses all the trigger components. You buy that. It's got no markings on it. It's just a block of metal with some cutouts in it. And then you buy a parts kit, and you have to mill out the receiver yourself, finish up the details. It's an 80% receiver, so it's not totally finished. But this same concept would apply to even ones that you make yourself that are finished, or 3D printed ones. And basically what it says is that you cannot own any of these if they do not have a serial number, or and the serial number has to be given by an actual FFL. It can't just be something you make yourself, which is how people have been getting around this for a while, because legally there's not much definition regarding a serial number, but this bill says it has to be done by an FFL. There's exceptions to law enforcement and military, but that's it, and gun shops, but for that purpose. And the problem with this bill, and why it's so much worse than what it could have been, is because there's no grandfathering at all. Possession of one of these firearms which you have made yourself is illegal. So you cannot make and you cannot own a homemade firearm at all now in the state of Nevada. Now hopefully this gets appeals and this is stopped, if it even can be stopped at this point. I mean, it's already passed. I try to stay, and I've tried recently to stay away from the gun control conversation, mostly because when we get into this, and I'll tell you a little more in this one because this is a point I want you guys to understand. Whenever we talk about gun control, I always end up telling you guys to commit felonies. And by felonies, I mean not anything we would consider a felony, just possession of stuff that the government doesn't want you to have. And we're not committing crimes with them. We're not doing anything that would infringe on the liberty of others, simply extending our own. But when I talk about this kind of stuff and tyranny, there's only one path that actually leads to any freedoms. Compliance is not an option. And then maybe you'll take the option of compliance. I mean, sure, but it's not an option if you actually want to live any sort of... Well, I won't go too into that, but let's say we're going into a time when if you choose not to live in freedom, it's over. Like, well, I don't need to go too much into that, but you can comply, yes, and most of the people who are aware of these gun bills, they will comply, because here's what the government's going to do. Oh, that little block of metal that you have, if you don't give that to us right now, we'll either kill you or we will send you to jail for the rest of your life. And if you have family members, it makes it 10 times worse, because they'll use those as collateral. They use them all the time. There's numerous instances of that happening. Research Waco and research Ruby Ridge, just to name two. So we get down that road, and the only course of events that actually makes sense is non-compliance. The problem with non-compliance is that there is a very, very large force that will come after you and try to destroy everything you have to live for if you choose that route. They want total compliance. They are a totalitarian state. So if you do anything against them in that capacity, they will destroy you. And that's why most people don't take that route. Most people will, in Nevada, will see this bill and say, you know what, whatever, let's turn them in. And it will just get worse and worse and worse until eventually they will say, no weapons at all. And at that point, people will have already turned them all in, so it won't even matter. But bills like this just make things worse and worse and worse. Ghost guns was inevitably going to be closed off. It was that loophole that allowed people to get firearms without the government knowing. Well, the government knows, without the government being able to stop you. But at some point in the near future, all across America, I believe that ghost guns will be made illegal. This will probably become federal law at some point, and bills like this in Nevada pave the way for this. Now, here's what we need to understand. With something like this, it's really important that we start waking up other people to the fact that this is outright outrageous. Many people outside are still in that perception that nobody needs an unserialized gun. You're probably committing crimes if you don't need a serial number, which we know as Americans is outrageous. Why would I give the government anything more than they need? Why? It just doesn't make sense. But we need to start waking more people up to this idea. If this comes up in conversation, you don't need to tell them. You don't need to talk about real things. You don't need to say, we should all be able to own machine guns, because we should, constitutionally, but whatever. You don't need to say anything crazy like that. You can just say, actually, I believe it is an American's right to own an unserialized firearm, just because of the Second Amendment. And then they'll say, oh, but the Second Amendment doesn't apply to weapons of war. And then you can say, actually, the Second Amendment only applies to weapons of war. It's not referring to hunting. Let's say that. The Second Amendment was not created for hunting. And then they'll say, oh, whatever, but you don't really think it's common sense. But the Constitution says it. I don't know what to tell you. So I would encourage you guys to open up conversations on that point. We need to be talking to more people about this kind of stuff and changing perception. That takes a long time. But I think over the last year, great leaps and bounds have been made in that area. It's going to take a while, and we're not going to be able to change everyone's minds. But we got to try. So that's about it regarding this bill. It's pretty bad. How do you get around something like this? You buy all of the ghost guns you can right now, and then you take a fishing trip. I know the ATF knows about fishing trips. I don't really think it matters at this point. But you buy all of them you can. You take a fishing trip. Good. You're done. That's really what it comes down to at this point. And I'm not even getting into specifics, because I know that eventually this will be so illegal and I won't be able to talk about it. And I'll get put on some list for talking about it. By that point, I'll probably have taken this video down, just because I don't want that evidence to sit around for everyone to see. I know YouTube can still access it, but hey. That's okay. So, that's regarding that bill. It's not a fun bill. Not like gun control at all. It's just not fun. But we're going to have to deal with it until enough people start to say enough is enough. That point may be approaching, but to be quite honest, I doubt it. The people in power know what they're doing, and they're smart. They're not going to let it get to a point where everyone rises up at once and says this is ridiculous. They'll trickle it in slowly and slowly, so nobody actually gets upset enough to do anything real. And then, when everyone suddenly realizes it's too late for them to do anything, they'll solidify it and finalize everything. And we're getting to that point. It's starting to become more and more clear that these people know that they can do anything they want. Nobody's going to stop them. Make your choice. What are you going to do? Decide that now. Don't wait for them to come to your door to decide what you're going to do. Decide now. Are you going to turn your ghost guns in? Or are you going to take the route of non-compliance? And I will say this. If you do go and turn your ghost guns in, you might as well also turn in anything you got with an American flag on it. You might as well turn away any freedoms, turn in any freedoms you have, turn in any books you have that may, I don't know, promote free thinking ideas. And I mean patriotic ideas, not the new age free thinking. You may turn in anything you have to produce your own food, or get your own water. Just turn it all in. Because honestly, at that point, if you're going to go down the route of becoming a slave to the state, you might as well go all the way. Go enroll yourself in some FEMA camp. Just do it. If that's the route you're going to take. I know that, they may hurt us because we have ghost guns. Yeah, they may. They probably will. But if you're not going to think about that now, that means that every time they threaten you with some form of harm, you'll give in. And that will go all the way down. When is your line in the sand? For many of you Christians, your line in the sand is probably when it goes against my religion. But you also have to understand that in order to actually be able to stand up and take a stand and say, no, I'm not doing that because of my religion, it would be beneficial for you to have the tools to be able to defend yourself and your right to do that. If you're just sitting there alone with you saying, I'm going to do, and I won't get too into this, but saying, this is my belief system, they can't stop me. What does the government fear from you? What do they fear of God? They're going to stop you. It'd be beneficial to take the tools that God has given us the opportunity to have right now and to not give them up. Self-defense is a 100% biblical principle. Self-defense against a tyrannical government is a biblical principle. We prefer other methods, for sure, but it's biblical. If you want proof on that, look at the Founding Fathers, their faith, and the American Revolution. These were not just random Americans who were Christians with crazy conspiracy ideas. No, they had thought through their faith in depth and still led the American Revolution. Similar leaders can arise today with similar morals and faith structures. It's possible to be a Christian and participate in the American Revolution. I believe today, should a similar event take place, it's also possible to do the same. There's certain criteria that must be met. For instance, it shouldn't be an offensive war. And there's other things regarding that too. But I guess what I'm trying to say from this is, regarding this ghost gun bill, you can choose to comply or not comply. If you choose to comply, just give them everything you own. They're going to take it anyways. If you choose not to comply, prepare yourself for a horrible ordeal. Life's not going to get easier for you. In fact, they're going to try to take everything. All of it. One route, just give them it. The other route, they're going to try to take it. Can you defend it? That's your personal decision what to do. I'll leave it at that. Stay safe out there. And maybe take a fishing trip. Or don't take a fishing trip. And actually, you know what? I'll say one more thing. Regarding the fishing trip conversation, the fishing trip might actually be compliance. Because if you lost them, I mean, you're not really standing up. Then again, living to fight another day is better than dying on that hill. So I'll leave the fishing trip idea to you, whether you want to take that trip or not. I can see being a true American patriot and still taking a fishing trip. I can see doing that, and I hope you guys understand what I mean by fishing trip. I mean taking your items with you fishing. And then having an unfortunate boating accident. So I can see the argument for an American patriot who would go on a fishing trip and one who wouldn't, and they could argue both points, and I can see both being valid. Comes down to your personal decision on which one you think you'll be most effective in. So, hope that wasn't too much. Hope that was a good explanation of that issue. It's not good at all. There's nothing good to talk about regarding it at all. It's just bad. So, see you guys later. Thank you for watching. I'll be back with another video. Still got a little more to discuss today. See you guys later.